I'm Charlie Bride of Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Chris Curtis, Marjorie Duffield, and Helen Park, the songwriting team behind the original songs to Netflix's animated film Over the Moon. My first question is going to be to you, Marjorie, and that is, how difficult was it to compose songs for a film that was not originally written as a musical?
You know, this is a great question, and we were gifted. You know, Audrey Wells wrote this beautiful script that um, strangely is almost like the perfect libretto to a musical without the songs. Chris and Helen and I all have a musical theater background. And so even just to read the script, Audrey would build her moments to these places where the characters would just have to sing. They just had to move into song, and save one or two spots, like the ping pong song, which was a wish from Glenn Keane, the director, who really wanted something. I think he saw it visually, so he really wanted a song there. But all the other songs really, they sort of, to all of us, were really crying out to be musicalized. The moments were already sort of embedded in the script, and there had to be some transformation, and we had to lift out a certain maybe section of dialogue for the song to go there. But it was really magical how musical, just in the dialogue, the original script was, but also structurally, Audrey almost had these moments just perfectly paced where it's like, oh, that's a song. Oh, and that's a song. So actually she gave us that gift of building a beautiful script that showed the dramatic moments.
Yeah, it's really like I worked with Tom Meehan on Chaplin, and Tom used to get offered lots and lots of projects, and he would say, "Yeah, but does it sing? Does it sing? I don't know if it sings. This sang." Like the binding light between all three of us was Audrey's script, her amazing script, and it read like a book to a musical. It really did. It's like the songs kind of just leapt off the page, like Margie said. It's just and it was very visual. It's like I always say, you know, in music, you listen to the music. In animation, you listen to the images, and you could see the images and hear music in the images and those words. So there was the greatest gift for all of us was this wonderful script that had a musicality built right in it.
Yeah, and I would add what musicals do really well that non-musicals don't do is examining the inner emotions in, you know, a more like personal, deep way. It's a different approach, and to be able to examine, you know, these Asian characters that are not very much examined in a lot of films, like, you know, in that, you know, very complicated yeah, you know, intricate way, to be able to do that through song for our characters was definitely something amazing. It was great.
Very exciting.
Now, was this the first time that you had all, I'm going to go to you first, Chris. Is this the first time that you had all worked with each other?
Yes. Margie and I worked on a project before. And when we had gone to China, because we were part of the Pearl Artist in Residence program, where we first got introduced to the script. And then Glenn Keane got involved, and they were interviewing songwriters, and they had been interviewing Helen, and they loved her show K-pop, which was a big hit off Broadway. And Glenn was like, it narrowed it down to me and Margie and Helen. And Glenn was like, well, I love them both. I mean, can't we just ask them to work together? And Palin Chow, the producer, was like, people don't really do that, but we can try. And then they said, hey, would you guys be willing to meet and work together? And we met, and we really hit it off again, because we all were inspired by this beautiful script. So it was the first time we all worked together, and it worked because we all connected and we all became best friends because of it too.
So, Helen, I want to address this one to you. Sometimes there are songs that take a while to come together because they're more difficult than others to compose in terms of nailing down the right sound or the right tone to them. And I was curious as to if there was one of the songs in Over the Moon that you had that challenge with.
There are a couple songs that come to mind. There are some, well, one of the songs is Ultraluminary. It was Glenn Keane and Audrey Wells, they both wanted it to be a concert song. That's a song that Chang'e, the moon goddess, sings. And they wanted it to be a concert song. And that was all we were given. And we also thought it would be a concert song. But in the beginning, Glenn was like, what if it's like Queen? What if it's like Bohemian Rhapsody? And I'm sure Margie will talk more about that, but Chang'e's character is much, a lot like a weather change, and they wanted it to represent that as well. Like, she has a lot of up and downs, and she's also very demanding. She is like the goddess, so it had to be something that's like really demanding. But then rock just did not work. We tried it and it just felt a little bit, not as strong of a demand. And Glenn was like, oh, what if it's, what if we all have to dance? What if it's like a song that demands you to dance and you can't help it? And he cited, LMFAO as an example. And, and of course we got like inspirations from Katy Perry and Lady Gaga, and also some K-pop influences. And so we were like, oh, you wanted a dance song? Okay. So after a couple of different approaches, like the dance song we came up with was this wild dance song, which became Ultraluminary. Another song that comes to mind is Wonderful, which is Gobi's song. And that one was a little difficult because it really required representing the theme of the whole film, but in Gobi's unique character. And his character is very different than all the others. He has this this kind of selfless character to him, and to come up with his sound, we tried a couple of different approaches as well, that range from funk to folk, but then the ukulele sound came to our mind, because it's such a humble instrument. It sounds very selfless to me. So yeah, once we started with that ukulele, very simple tune, it kind of clicked, and yeah, that's one of my favorite songs now.
Yeah, and sorry, Helen, I want to talk about lyrically those two songs, and then Chris probably wants to talk about Ping Pong or something. All 700 drafts. It was also a real challenge for us when we were, because lyrically, it was happening. Musically was one piece, and then lyrically, Chang'e was really well defined in certain ways in Audrey's script, but a lot of that material ultimately was taken out, and so we had to really, in a few brushstrokes, lyrically, kind of draw how does this moon goddess say this? What is her? So she kind of had to be a diva with an edge, but she also had to be larger than life, but she also had to have a vulnerability. Like she had to do a lot of things at once. And I want to add, we did have a little Beyonce inspiration in the beginning for sure. So right. I think how she, not just how the song was and what the song was, but what was she saying? That became, all of these questions about how do we draw this character, because she had to be embodied in this one song, who she was, because so much of her material had to be taken out as dialogue and put into this. And to just also talk about some of the conversations we had about Wonderful, because that was a song that had to, it had to be the song that Gobi sang to Chang'e that got him thrown out of the palace, but it also had to be the song that Feifei needed to hear right in that moment. So it also had to have a lot of elements and take you on a lyrical journey and a musical journey. So they were tricky.
And I think also like Rocket to the Moon, it was interesting because that song came in stages. You know what I mean? It was like a long birth. you know, and like the story of that is the emotional journey of Fei Fei. That song is born out of grief when she's like, I look up in the heavens, and she's just so heartbroken and she's missing her mother. And I remember when I was a kid, someone had said to me, you know, when you're grieving, you have to run into the grief to break through it. You can't run away from it. You almost have to embrace it completely. And in that moment where she's so heartbroken, the music is building, and all of a sudden that voice of intuition breaks through and she sings, fly away. And that voice of inspiration inspires her. And then she gets excited about building this rocket. And then the song becomes like a locomotive gaining speed. Until finally, like Glenn said, what I just want in the end of that song, I want to feel like the audience is taken off with her to the moon. And by the end of when she's like singing, fly away, we've done that. So that is a journey through grief, breaking through the grief through inspiration, and then getting excited and blasting off to the moon. So and it happened like in a bunch of different stages. So yeah, those three songs kind of have different phases as they came to be.
And Marjorie, this next one, I want to start with you. Were there any aspects of Chinese music that you incorporated into the songs?
Yeah, you know, we all did research, but we were also, and actually the project that Chris and I had worked on prior to this was a piece that was going to be a fusion of European and Chinese instruments, so that we had been thinking about that for a number of years. But we actually got to also work with a really amazing composer musician named Rock Chen, who's very, very, very big in the Chinese film industry. And he came in, and you know, Chris and Helen can speak to that more directly. But he, you know, in addition to the research we did and the thinking about sound, Rock was also really a pretty significant advisor.
Was amazing. He was amazing. I mean, a good example of that is the song I'm Yours Forever. That was the second draft that we did. The first draft was I'll always love you, which was more Western sounding. And then we would think, well, what if it was like this song that almost had this ancient kind of Chinese traditional feel, and that, which is what it is now, you know? It's almost like a song that you're like, oh yeah, they sang that years and years ago, you know, and had this real traditional, and that's what we were trying to capture in that. So that definitely had that traditional Chinese feel, and then Rock orchestrated with this beautiful, beautiful orchestrations using all those incredible instruments.
Yeah, we knew that even though we did all the research, we knew that be a limit, and we wanted to have, you know, we wanted to make sure we're not, you know, offending anyone, and Rock was a real expert in this. So
it was great.
His help and his input. I mean, one example was the instrument erhu. Apparently, I mean, it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful sound, but Rock told us that some Chinese people remember it in connection with war. I guess it was played
World
in
War II.
World War II.
In particular.
It's a sad sound. And so that was something very specific that we weren't aware of before. And so he just brought in this knowledge and, you know, specific, embellishments and the very authentic sounds into our music, which was great.
Yeah, he was awesome.
So I also, this one I want to start with Helen on, of the songs for Over the Moon, do you have a personal favorite?
Well, I can't choose one, but I do feel like personally the journey in writing Wonderful was something that I will remember for the rest of my life. Because the song had to teach us about grief. I mean, of course, the whole film does, and I learned a lot through working on the film, but working on that song, I kind of had to actively research what people grieving need to hear and what that journey is like and what they have to do to move forward. And it's not an easy subject to think about and research. But yeah, I watched a lot of like TED Talks about grief, and yeah, we had conversations, Margie and Chris and I. And yeah, I think through that, we also got to be even closer, you know, sharing some of our experiences. Yeah, it's just a special song for me.
I guess you're waiting. I think Charlie's waiting for us to jump in. You know, I have a really hard time. I cannot favor any of my babies ever. They each have a special story and a special moment, if not 20. So, I mean, I could speak to all of them with great love. And I guess, you know, one of the things I love about the very closing song is that it's directly, you know, Love Someone New is directly tied to Rocket to the Moon. And it was one of the first musical pieces that we ever made. And I remember the room and the moment when we made it. And so it forever kind of thematically and musically bookends the story. So, you know, to love someone new means to love Rocket to the Moon. So it's the beginning and the end of the journey. So I just feel I remember specifics on all of them so much and feel so grateful to have worked with these two amazing musicians and songwriters, because there's so many layers of each of us, so much DNA in each of the songs.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like it's hard to choose one because they're all personal. You know, all the songs that we wrote together became very personal. For me, Rocket to the Moon is the one that's personal because the whole journey of accepting grief and, you know, transforming grief, I could relate to, because when I was a kid, we lost my little brother. And it was at his service that one of the priests said, you know, you have to run into your grief. That's the way you get through it. And that journey of grief, of transforming it, and then, you know, being inspired, you know, and trying to love again, I think is the thing that really was the most personal to me. And again, that was part of Audrey's script. That's in the DNA of her script, which is very special.
Well, Chris, Marjorie, Helen, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best during this upcoming award season. And to all of our viewers, please like this video, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to go to goldderby.com and use the Gold Derby app to make your predictions and see if you can outsmart the top prognosticators in Hollywood. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, Charlie. So nice to meet you.